Hi guys, welcome back to part 2 of the three-game series. We are in part 2 of game 3, and let's continue on. Our board state's pretty bad. We're fighting against a Liliana of the Veil, a Choke, and a Tarmogoyf that has currently been resolved. Let's see if we can be able to get ourselves out of this. We managed to draw Polluted Delta off the top, which is a perfect draw, exactly what we needed. It allows us to be able to terminate or Murderous Cut the Tarmogoyf and still keep and be able to cast cards like Tasker or Gurmag Angler later on and be able to weaken Liliana of the Veil, hopefully. But since he has Terminate and Maelstrom Pulse, he would probably just get rid of the creature before he'd even Edict. So now we'll just fetch for a swamp because of Choke, preventing us from getting an island that, and it would make it unable to untap. So we'll just terminate the Tarmogoyf, give us some more turns to be able to play. Our opponent decides to play a Skooz, so that way he can keep his threats going and be able to eat some cards off graveyards, gain some life, passes back to us. We draw Serum Visions, which is a good draw, so we decide to cast it. Hopefully we can be able to hit another black source of some sort, but we hit Engineered Explosives, which is a great card, perfect, exactly what we need for this situation. But we're just missing one important piece, which is another untapped land. So we decided to hold on to Engineer Explosives until we have another source, so that way we can be able to just play Engineer Explosives and blow it up in the same turn. Our opponent decides to try to eat our 2 young Pyromancers, so we Murderous Cut in response to kill the Skooz. He still gains 2 life, and we pay with our 2 young Pyromancers to help make the Murderous Cut a little bit easier to cast. Opponent decides now it's time to +1 Liliana again. And out of all cards, I'd rather just get rid of a Tasker, because with Gurmag Angler is bigger than Tasker right now, and Tasker just gets wiped out by Goyf. We do hit Darkslick Shores, but enters tap, so we have to wait one more turn in order to go for the plan of killing Liliana and choking one turn. And the great thing about Darkslick Shores is that it can untap since it is not an island. Opponent decides yet again to +1 Liliana, hopefully to ultimate her off to sacrifice half our permanents probably. And when he decides to +1 Liliana, it's either to discard Gurmag Angler or Death Shadow. I decided to get rid of Gurmag Angler because Death Shadow could get a lot bigger and be able to fight through plenty more hate. Here we decided to play Engineer Explosives for 3, and we decided to do it now because that way if we did a turn earlier, it could get Abrupt Decayed and we would just lose the matchup because we cannot fight through the Choke. During his upkeep, we decide to set off the Engineer Explosives so that way he can't have the chance to ultimate Liliana. And now our lands can finally untap. Opponent does get a decent draw though off the top with Dark Confidant, allowing his card draw engine to just continue. So on our turn, we decide it's time to get a little bit of payback, get another black land, and here we decide to cast Kolaghan's Command, shocking the Dark Confidant and bringing back another card. And we bring back Gurmag Angler. Or no, Snapcaster Mage, so that way we could be able to snap back Kolaghan's Command and just keep rebuying back those spells. And that way we can force Jun's plan against themselves and force them to be that one that's empty-handed and just grind it out. We fetch out for a Watery Grave, so then that way we have 3 black sources. So that way we can use Kolaghan's Command, Gurmag Angler, and Death Shadow if necessary. But we draw a Young Pyromancer, which is another good draw. So decide to cast Young Pyromancer. That way we can snap back a Kolaghan's Command and continue on the value train. And if we decide to do it like this, so that way if he decides to let Young Pyromancer resolve, we can get an Elemental token off of the snapback of Kolaghan's Command. But our opponent does decide to Abrupt Decay the Young Pyromancer, so that way we can't get the token off. But because he decides to Abrupt Decay instead of Terminate, it does allow us now to have counterable spells for Terminate or Maelstrom Pulse. so it's better overall for us in the long game. We decided to bring back Kolaghan's Command, forcing our opponent to discard, and we'll bring back another Snapcaster Mage. So now we're starting to turn the corner. We have threats that can finally bring back cards, and we force our opponent down to 1 card in hand while we have 3. So I feel here we have finally turned the corner. Opponent starts to have bad draws with Blackleaf Cliffs. So all he can do now is just put the Blackleaf Cliffs in play or hold in hand, and be able to hold up Terminate just in case if we decide to play something big. Here we had a Steam Vents for our draw. Not the greatest card. We don't want to play it tapped. We don't want to play it untapped because more damage dealt to us. Like, we can have still more direct damage that could be dealt to us and be lethal. So just having it enter tapped, plus we can just still be able to cast Gurmag and be able to Snapcaster Mage back Kolaghan's Command yet again is still a strong play. But we decided to Gurmag Angler first, so that way if he wants to terminate Gurmag Angler, we can force him to discard his last card and bring back Angler for next turn. Set a pass. Opponent takes the bait, decides to terminate the Gurmag Angler, which allows us to, during his next turn, discard his last card. He hits a Treetop Village, which is a good card against Snapcaster Mage because it has Trample. And now, because we hit our Snapcaster Mage, we can Kolaghan's Command, force discard, bring back Gurmag Angler. Or, yeah, just the Gurmag Angler. Then our graveyard a little bit more. Keep the game going. Now our opponent's down to 0 cards, and we have 3 cards. Scalding Tarn, it's a nice card because now we can be able to hold up Death's Shadow as a 6/6, and if he decides to play something to possibly make it as big as Death's Shadow, we can pay 1 life, make Death's Shadow bigger. And we cast Death's Shadow as a 6/6, and cast Gurmag Angler as a 5/5. Now here, it is the true turning point of the game. We have pretty much total control of the board state. Our opponent does draw Scavenging Ooze, which is a really interesting draw. It allows him to start getting back some life, and be able to challenge Death Shadow or Gurmag Angler. But now he has a couple decisions to make. He can either cast it now and eat up some cards out, and eat up some creatures out of the graveyard and make it bigger, get some life, or he can be able to eat 1 creature and then be able to make Treetop Village a creature. Here I don't notice this in the middle of the game where he decides to tap these 2 lands and hold up a green mana source. For some reason, I don't know why, he probably thought he got an extra mana off this. So it's just a misplay on both of our parts. And he makes it a little bit bigger. So that was a big mistake on my part. I probably should have noticed what happened there. Just wasn't paying attention. Kind of in the zone. Felt like I already had the game under control thanks to Death Shadow, plus Gurmag Angler, and our opponent doesn't have any cards in hand. Now our opponent just is trying to decide whether or not he wants to exile his last 3 creatures with Scavenging Ooze, make himself go to 9, and have a 6/6 creature ready to block Death Shadow. But overall, if he decides to block Death Shadow at that point, he's already been taking a lot of points of damage off of the rest of the team, and probably won't be able to win. But thankfully, because I hit his Maelstrom Pulse, he can mostly, and Jund decks, they don't keep Maelstrom Pulse more than a 1-of. So if there would be no chance of him being able to draw Maelstrom Pulse, being able to sweep away our Snapcaster Mages, and possibly block the Gurmag Angler further on. So he decides to eat 3 of his creatures, Tarmogoyf, Scavenging Ooze, and Dark Confidant, make Scavenging Ooze a 6/6, and put himself up to 9 life. Overall, I find merit in that. But at this point, the game's pretty much over now. Especially now that we have Scalding Tarn in hand to be able to make Death Shadow still bigger. Here we can either play Gitaxian for mana or pay for life. I decided to pay for mana just because if there's some sort of situation where our opponent can turn the game around, I don't want to die to Scavenging Ooze and swing back. so we just pay for life and pay for mana, draw spell snare. Best situation is just play the Scalding Tarn and swing for everything. And fortunately for us, our opponent doesn't have anything to fight that off, and he conceded the game. So overall, decent matchup. Definitely one of my favorite matchups to be able to play against Jund, because it is one of the grindiest matchups. It is one of the games where we will see most of our deck. As you can see, I only have 19 cards left in my library, and it's just a fun game. It's just grind. Whoever's the better player will win the matchup, and deck building does come down to that. So if you're playing the deck, I personally like having the 3 Death Shadow in the side, just because if I'm playing against decks that use Bolt and Abrupt Decay, I can take out Delver's Secrets, put in Death Shadow, who's more resilient against Bolt, and if necessary, we'll take a Abrupt Decay. Overall, I like the deck. I'm going to keep making more of these videos for you guys, if you guys like them. And since now I actually have some time to make more commentary, I'll be able to put more of the commentary videos out. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of the deck. Let me know what you think of different kind of moves I could have made, different kind of situations you would have done. And hopefully you guys have a good day. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff. I don't really care though. That's fine. So see you guys next time. See you later.